Many WNBA fans are calling out the referee problem, and they are demanding answers and they are demanding changes.
The referees literally turned their back.
Caitlin Clark appears to be hunted every game. She deals with physicality that no other player in the league is dealing with.
Footage has emerged proving WNBA referees definitely have an agenda against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever.
I feel like I'm getting...
A WNBA referee has been suspended after people found out about a bad call he made during Caitlin Clark's injury, which showed he may have been acting unfairly.
It's shocking.
Caitlin Clark will be sidelined for at least 2 weeks
with a quad injury.
Footage has emerged how Caitlin Clark got hurt.
He fouls her for the 4th time. It's cheap.
Seriously, man, do you have something personal against her? Who's even paying you? Because whatever you're doing out there, it's definitely not proper officiating. It's a sad mix of jealousy and poor judgment, and it's one of the worst things we've seen in this struggling league.
The WNBA not stepping in to protect their cash cow, their only draw, their only star, and this is the end result.
Let's be clear. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA's golden ticket. She's the reason the league has become more exciting, more visible, and, let's be honest, more relevant.
Clark is the driving force behind the interest in the Fever and the interest in the WNBA.
Rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional.
Merchandise is selling like crazy. Fans are packing the stands, and viewership is hitting record highs. All because of Caitlin Clark. But the wild part? The way the WNBA treats her. For some reason, it feels like the referees are personally out to get her.
Every single game, WNBA players, fans, coaches are all complaining about the referees, and they have shown that they're not going to change.
Every time Caitlin Clark steps on the court, she faces bad calls, ignored fouls, and a level of disrespect no one else seems to get. Why? Is it because she's just too good? Is it jealousy? Maybe they don't like that she's doing what the WNBA hasn't been able to do without her: grow the league. Whatever the reason, this season has made it clear that the officiating is out of control, and it's time the league does something about it.
Physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional.
Take the Fever versus Liberty game, for example. It was supposed to be an exciting showdown between two top teams, but it turned into a disaster thanks to the refs. Caitlin Clark kept getting fouled over and over, and still, no calls were made.
There's a committee that is saying what style of basketball they want to allow, what is okay, what is acceptable, what is not.
The free throw difference was honestly laughable. The Fever had 31 fewer attempts. 31. That's not just a mistake. That's nearly impossible, especially when you're playing against a team constantly driving to the basket.
What I gather from this is that the league is basically saying it can be this physical, let it be this physical. The problem that a lot of us have with the referees is it's either very physical and they're calling everything, or they're missing.
But sure, let's just pretend it didn't happen, right? The final play was the icing on the cake. With 1 second left, Caitlin Clark was clearly grabbed as she went for a potential game-winning shot, but the refs just looked the other way. And to make it worse, Liberty players were getting free throws for the slightest contact. This wasn't just bad officiating. It felt like intentional neglect, and it cost the Fever the game.
How the referees are calling certain.
And if the bad calls weren't already enough, let's talk about the footage from the game. It was unbelievable. 3 referees, grown men whose job is to uphold fairness and integrity, literally turned their backs on Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and the Fever bench when they try to talk about the missed calls. Can you believe that?
Call fouls on screeners and how many illegal screens are set in the W.
This wasn't just a mistake or a moment of poor judgment. This was a deliberate snub. It wasn't just disrespectful. It was completely unprofessional. The refs had a chance to show some basic decency and respect to professional athletes, but instead, they acted like the Fever didn't even matter.
We'll have 4 steps in advance, like the screen is legally set, but this player, and we saw it with Sony Citron, will slam into somebody setting the screen because their teammate is not calling out the screen, calling out that the screen is.
And that's a major problem, not just for Caitlin Clark, but for the entire league. When referees won't even talk to players who are trying to understand or question a call, it points to a much bigger issue with how officiating is handled in the WNBA. It shows there's a serious problem with the culture around accountability and fairness.
This injury does anything. It should be a wake-up call to the WNBA, the Players Association, the team owners, that just like that, all this fanfare, all this interest, all this newfound attention on the league can disappear.
But of course, this isn't just about one game. It's a pattern, a troubling, consistent pattern. Referees have been treating Caitlin Clark like she's invisible, almost as if being a superstar makes her less deserving of fair treatment. This season, the bias against her has become so clear, it's nearly impossible to ignore.
24 was a year of unprecedented growth in viewership in the WNBA, a substantial amount of which can be attributed to Caitlin Clark, who took the basketball world by storm after an all-time college.
Fouls are ignored. She gets hit harder than anyone else, and still, no calls. It's like the WNBA has decided that Caitlin Clark doesn't need protection, even though she's arguably the face of the league right now.
Clark out at least 2 weeks waited, but can the WNBA maintain without her? Can the WNBA pack arenas, draw ratings?
And the most frustrating part? This isn't just about Caitlin Clark. It's hurting the integrity of the entire league. Fans and players are noticing that WNBA officiating is, at best, inconsistent and, at worst, biased. When missed calls turn into obvious favoritism, the game stops being about talent and competition and starts being about who gets a better treatment from the refs.
Referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the calls.
Let's be real. The WNBA had the perfect opportunity to step up this season. They promised better officiating and more accountability for referees. But what actually changed? Nothing. Instead of progress, we're seeing even worse calls and more obvious bias than ever before.
Didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what went down, bro. They have an agenda against Caitlin.
The league's lack of action is making the WNBA look like a joke. It's like they say, we promise better officiating, but then let the same problems and favoritism keep happening. No wonder fans are frustrated. And don't even get me started on how Caitlin Clark's injury plays into all of this. It just makes everything worse.
The reason that people are complaining is because they haven't watched the WNBA before, and these are just new fans who don't understand. But there's clearly an...
After taking hit after hit on the court with no calls, Caitlin Clark ends up injured. A quad injury that'll keep her out for at least 2 weeks. Coincidence? Hard to believe. It's clear that the lack of protection she's gotten all season has finally caught up with her, and now she's paying the price.
She will be out for 2 weeks minimum following a quad strain.
Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham going to the officials and trying to, ask for an explanation of what had just...
Now, the Fever are left without their leader, struggling to stay competitive. They've even had to move games to bigger arenas just to keep fans interested. But let's be honest, without Caitlin Clark, that spark, that excitement, it's just not the same. The energy's gone.
The WNBA problem. And as more and more eyeballs are watching this league, it becomes growingly an issue. The officiating feels you never have a true...
And fans can feel it. Her absence is a huge blow, not just to the Fever, but to the entire league. It's making it clear just how much the WNBA relies on her for viewership, energy, and excitement. Without her, the spotlight dims.
Listening to them. They're not listening to the coaches. They're not listening to the players. They're not listening to the fans. They're listening to their stakeholders. That's why I keep saying nothing is going to change till the mindset and whoever's running all of this, the stakeholders, governance, whoever these people.
Stephanie White, head coach of the Indiana Fever, didn't hold back after another night of terrible officiating. After watching what could only be described as chaos on the court, she was furious. This wasn't just frustration over a few missed calls. She was genuinely disgusted. White spoke out, calling the officiating egregious and disrespectful, making it clear she'd had enough.
Lions head coach Stephanie White, she was complaining about her team not getting a whistle, not being respected.
And she wasn't just talking about a missed call here or there. This was a consistent pattern that kept getting worse with every game. The Fever weren't facing just a few human mistakes. They were up against a deeper, systemic problem. Coach White laid it all out, explaining how her team, especially Caitlin Clark, was being targeted on the court, while the referees simply looked the other way.
It's the Caitlin Clark disrespect. And what I mean by that is you've got somebody who is obviously the most popular player in basketball. You got somebody that I would argue may be a top 5 most popular athlete in the United States of America. All right. You got this athlete in a league that nobody's been watching.
She even pointed to specific plays to prove her point, like the Dana Bonner incident. Bonner was clearly hit hard driving to the basket, the kind of contact that would earn free throws for any other player, but not for the Fever. No whistle. Then came the missed foul on Lexial. Another obvious call completely ignored. For Coach White, that was a breaking point. She had seen enough.
Your system is broken against that.
She didn't hold back, calling it exactly what it was. A broken system that needs urgent change. This wasn't just a coach venting after a tough loss. Stephanie White was making a serious, heartfelt plea for reform. One that should have shaken the league to its core. The lack of accountability from the referees isn't just frustrating anymore. It's completely unacceptable.
Chelsea Mitchell said even if there is a injury, hopefully it's just, like a little nagging thing. And again,
take care of your body and just make sure I think recovery is everything. I think if you're in tune to your body, you know what you need.
The WNBA had made big promises this season. Better officiating, more accountability, and real action to fix the issues fans and coaches have been talking about for years. So how did that turn out? Not well at all. Instead of improvement, the problem has only gotten worse.
Hiring referees who basically didn't have any experience but high school refereeing jobs, and then they did a stint in the G League. These referees actually aren't. I gained and reconfirmed with myself that not much is going to change.
The blatant bias against Caitlin Clark didn't go away. It just kept happening, game after game, leaving fans and players stunned. The WNBA's promises of better officiating now feel like nothing more than a hollow PR move. And this isn't just about Clark anymore. The poor officiating is dragging down the entire league. They're failing to meet the very standards they claim to set, and everyone can see it.
Committee for stakeholders, coaches, governors, and general managers, and that is saying what style of basketball they want to allow, and the referees are following that.
And how did the league respond to all of this? Silence. The WNBA said nothing. They didn't address the concerns from fans, coaches, or even players. Instead of owning up and making real changes, they let the problem grow worse. Refs kept missing obvious fouls, and Caitlin Clark kept taking hits with no protection. Fans were outraged, and for good reason. Some even threatened to stop watching games altogether if the league didn't act. This wasn't a small issue. It was driving people away. The league couldn't afford to keep ignoring it, but somehow they still did.
Games for Stephanie White to say, I've had enough.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few.
Now let's talk about the consequences, because there was a real price to all this. Caitlin Clark, one of the WNBA's biggest stars and most valuable assets, ended up with a quad injury after enduring constant rough play all season with barely any fouls called. Not exactly shocking, right? When a player gets hit over and over with no protection, eventually something's going to give. And it did.
I thought she got fouled. I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable.
And just like that, Clark went down. And now she's expected to be out for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Let that sink in. The Fever, a team already fighting to find consistency, now have to deal with a massive setback without their star. With Clark sidelined, they're scrambling to stay afloat. The offense takes a major hit, and the spark she brings, it's just not there. The whole team feels it.
Only draw in your league, the only player capable of selling tickets, is potentially out for an extended period of time. What the hell are you gonna do?
Here's the kicker. Fans are furious. And it's not just because Clark is injured. They're angry because they believe this could have been avoided. If the referees had done their job, if they had protected her like they're supposed to, she might not be sidelined right now. But instead, we watch her take hit after hit with no calls. And now she's the one paying the price for the refs' incompetence.
Understand, the frustration that I think comes the most with officiating is the inconsistencies of officiating. But listen, this is not
And this isn't just some minor issue. It's a major blow for the Fever. Caitlin Clark is the heartbeat of that team. Without her, the spark is gone. The rhythm is off, and it's painfully clear how much they rely on her to stay competitive. So here we are. Clark goes down. The Fever lose their leader, and the WNBA is still dragging its feet on the glaring officiating problems. You'd think they'd learn from the backlash by now, but no. Instead, they just keep letting it slide, hoping the outrage dies down. Meanwhile, fans and players are left shaking their heads, wondering how much longer this broken system will be allowed to continue. So here's the question. Should the WNBA finally hold its referees accountable, or will this be just another case of sweeping the problem under the rug?
When that foul took place, CBS said she's got a challenge left. Well, it didn't matter. She couldn't use it. Stephanie White could not challenge that foul call on Lexi Hull, the one that led to the game-winning free throws from Sabrina Ionescu, because she didn't have a timeout.